Today, we're going to look at Notion's recent update and the new database property that has come with it. We're going to talk about the functionality of this new property and also how it can optimize your Kanban or board views in Notion. To do this, we're going to use a pretty basic task manager, which is going to be available as a template down in the description below. You'll also be able to follow along with me with another template that is going to be blank. In addition to the new property in this update, there's also an update to the relation property and new ways to view it. Let's just get right into it. This is the page that you'll be able to duplicate down in the description below. And what we're going to do is look at a task calendar and a list of tasks, 10 here, with some properties. And we're going to use the new status property to see different ways we can utilize it. And we have two different databases to start with. Each task will be connected to a type via this column here called type and the relation property. So let's take a look at what we're starting with. This is just a basic table. We have 10 tasks, a start date and start time. A status property, which is not using the new status property, but the old select property, and you can still use select properties, of course. But I want to show you how you can convert a select property with the different options into the new status property. I also have a done checkbox and that type relation property. Before this update, we could create a board view or a Kanban database view by going Add View to the top of the database and selecting Board. Let's name this Kanban. And what we could do with this is group by a select property like status. And even go to group here and configure that grouping by coloring the columns and moving these select properties around. So we can have not started, in progress, on hold, under review, before done, and then maybe archived at the end. But now what you can do is, if I go back to table, is convert this status property via edit property and type to this new property called status under basic. And what this does is take all of your select options and put them into 3 sections: to do, in progress, and complete. So we have not started in to do, on hold can be in to do, under review can be under in progress, and complete can have the 2 statuses done and archived. So you'll notice that the select property now looks pretty similar, but just with this circle to the side and a rounded edge. And what the status property can do, if I go back to Kanban and go to the database menu and go to layout, instead of grouping by status and just seeing all of my options, I can status by group. So to do, in progress, and complete, and I can color these columns as well. And I could also sort ascending or descending or manually, and I can move these around. To me, this just cleans up your Kanban. And if you still want to see the status options for each task, you can go to the database menu and go to properties and just make sure you see the new status option. And what I can do is also create a sort that says status ascending. Now, another really cool thing about this new property is how you're able to use a filter with it. So let's say in the complete column, I do not want to see archived tasks. I only want to see everything that's active. So I'm going to select filter, choose status. So I want to see everything under to do, in progress, but only done. I want to omit archived. And there I have my Kanban. So what I can also do is go to properties and maybe show a few other things like the start date and who these tasks are assigned to. Great. You can also maybe adjust the sort to have start ascending and then status ascending. So what happens if I move develop trial form to the in progress column? It will automatically give me a tag called in progress. So if I go back to the database menu and go to properties and click on status, I can configure it. And what I can do here is arrange maybe under review before in progress. Now if I do the same thing again and move this back to in progress, it will give me the under review tag. So what this is doing is just finding the first tag in progress and giving you that option. So I'm going to drag this back under. If I were to drag it over to complete, it should give me the done status option. And I will have to manually, by right-clicking and editing property status, change this to archived. Or I can go right into the card, go to status, and change it to archived. And of course, because we have that filter, it will disappear because our filter does not allow for archive tasks to show. And then we can make another view, maybe a list, and call it archive. And the properties I want to see is maybe the start date, the status property, and the type. Drag type above status, and maybe we can have it look something like this. Create a filter again for status where only archived is showing. And maybe sort by start ascending. Nice. So we have a Kanban, we have an archive view, and a table. We do have a done checkbox, which is a little bit redundant because in status we have an option for done. So we don't really need this, but what I want to show you is how we can visualize a checkbox inside of the status property. So I'm going to delete done and show you what I mean. So let's create a view for just a classic checklist with checkboxes. Make it a list, done, and in properties, I want to see the start date. I also want to see the status and the type again, and have status at the end. Sort by start ascending, get everything in here that we need, and maybe in filter, make sure that that status is active, so everything to do, in progress, and complete except for archive. Now what I want to do is transform this status property into a checkbox. So I'm going to go to the database menu, go to properties. By clicking on status, I can configure it again. And instead of showing as select property, let's show as checkbox. Now this is what this looks like. A checked box means that the task, if I click through, is done or archived. A checkbox with this slash means in progress, so either in progress or under review, and if it's not checked off, it is inside of the to-do group, not started or on hold. Let's change the name of this to checklist, and then I can click revamp widgets task for done, and it will check true. So which one of those options does it now have? If I click through, it has the option done. Okay, so what are other ways we can utilize this? We can maybe create a weekly timetable. So let's add a view for that. Weekly timetable. Go to timeline. Done. And I want to view all of this in a weekly view. So I'm going to click through one of these cards and show you some of the extra properties with this little template. We do have a start date and time, of course, a projected done time, via this hours budgeted. So if the time we're starting this task is July 10th, 12 p.m., and the hours budgeted are an hour and a half or 1.5, the projected done date should be July 10th at 1:30 p.m. I have another property here for date time actually finished, so maybe you actually finished it on July 10th, 2 p.m. Down here in actual hours, it will generate the actual hours you worked between the start time and the date time finished. I also have that relation, of course, to the task type database, the status property that we also looked at, and another formula for this week. So how I'm able to see if a task lands in this week between Monday and Sunday is with this formula that states formatting the date of now to capital W equals formatting the date of start to capital W. I also have assigned to, which is a person property, and the start time as a formula, and that is grabbing the start time from the start date. So I just want to see 12 p.m. To do that, I'm also using the format date function, and I am formatting the start to capital LT. Okay, so with these properties in mind, let's configure this task calendar for a timetable. I want to view not as a month, but as the week. Now what I can do is create a sort by start. That will clean things up a little bit. And then what I can do is filter to this week formula, that checkbox is checked. So now we narrowed it down just to the tasks this week. What I can also do is go to the database menu, go to properties, and now we have two different options. We can see properties in the timeline or certain properties in the table. And I am going to show table. I'm going to see the name of each task in that table. And then in the timeline, I do not want to see the name, but instead I'm going to look at the start time and the status. So this is one of my favorite views to look at tasks, especially in timeline view. We have all of the names of the tasks to the side in a table, and we're just seeing this week from Monday to Sunday. I'm filming this on a Sunday, so it would be all the tasks from this Monday here to today, Sunday. So let's say today, 10 a.m., email series. I'm going to change the status, so I'm going to right click, go to edit property and status, and I can change it right from here. Let's say I'm done. What I can also do is edit the property for the date time finished, which in this case, if I include time, let's say is 12 p.m. You can also change this view to just see the day. So if you are working with hours, you can see as a timetable what you need to do. So what I suggest here is if you want to see each card from the start time to the end time, the projected end time, you're going to go to the database menu, go to layout, and go to separate start and end dates. Now you have an option to look at an end date. In this case, let's change it to projected done. And now you'll see each card extends, in this case from 10 a.m. to 11:45, and you can kind of preview it by scrolling over each side of the card. And we can go back to week. And of course, you can create another view as just a basic calendar. So let's create another view here and go to calendar. And show calendar by that start date. Done. Great. And maybe in the database menu, we can go to properties and see the status for each one, and even sort by the start date. If I were to add a task via this calendar, maybe for the 15th, it will give me the status not started. And the reason why it's doing that is if I go to the database menu and go to my properties and status to configure, you'll notice that not started has this default. I can change this by maybe clicking on on hold and setting this as default instead. Now before, with the select property, you would have to create a simple filter to get the same result. But what's nice about the status property is you can do it right through the menu. Okay, so now that we have a lot of different ways to visualize with the status property, let's take a look at more advanced ways to look at it. Let's look at the rollup property. And to do that, we're going to go up to task type database. So for example, in content, let's just open this up as a page. We have one relation coming back called tasks. I go to edit property, and in type, it is down in advanced called relation. And with this new update, not only did they add the status property, they also updated relations. So really quickly, what you can now do inside of each relation, if I click on the plus symbol, I can configure what I see in this relation window via these three dots here. And I can view start time or status. So let's click status. And now I can see that through my window, which is pretty cool. One thing you can't do is sort, though. So rollups. How can we configure rollups with this new status property? I can add a property here, for instance, and create a rollup called in progress. I want to see all of my tasks that are currently in progress. So I'm going to go to type, go down to advanced, and select rollup. Now this window will appear to configure the rollup. Now rollups need a relation, and we have a relation here, tasks. So I'm going to choose my relation for my rollup, which is tasks. The property that I want to roll up, and you'll notice when I select this option that I have all of the properties for my task calendar to choose from. So the rollup is acting like a window from this relation. And I want to roll up the status property because I want to work with that. And I can go to calculate, and I have a few different options here. In this case, I'm going to count the number of tasks in progress. I can quickly make a similar rollup for all items in to do. So I'm going to click in progress and duplicate property and just rename to do. And under calculate, I'm just going to change count per group to do. In this case, 0 out of 3. And the last one for completed tasks. Completed, type, rollup, relation, tasks, property, status, and instead here I'm going to calculate percent per group. This displays the percentage of pages that have this grouping. In this case, 1 out of 3 or 66%. Another rollup I could create is to determine when the latest task was completed. So let's add another property called latest and type rollup. So in the same way, I'm going to select tasks, and property this time is going to be date time finished. So that's that date property that you manually fill out after completing a task, and calculate to see the latest date, which finds the latest date and time of a date property. So in my example, I did put date and time finished for the future from when I'm filming, but this would say something like 2 hours ago, 1 day ago, something like that. So let's drag that up here. Another rollup could be something like regulars. So we did have an assigned people property inside of tasks, so I can roll that up as well. Type, rollup, relation tasks, property assigned to, and I can show the unique values. So just all of the people that are usually assigned. So if I show original, it will just show every single person assigned to these tasks. Instead, I want to edit property and change calculate to show unique values. Drag this up here. Now what I want to do is inside of these gallery cards, I want to see something like this. I want to see maybe for content, if I completed tasks for the day. I also want to see all of my tasks in progress, or if I have all tasks completed for that type, like with design here. So that will require two different formulas. So we're going to grab those rollups for those status properties with a formula to show through each card. So let's go back to content and create those two formulas. The first formula we're going to create is going to be called today. So let's determine if any tasks were completed today, the type formula. And for this formula, we're going to look at the rollup latest. So if I were to click on latest in my properties here, it would show up as an actual date. It wouldn't say in 2 hours, it would say July 10th, 12 p.m., which is good. We know we're dealing with a date property here. So what I want to do is use the format date function, just wrap that around and say, I want to format this date to capital LL. So that'll give us just July 10th, 2022. I'm going to say if, so using the if function here, if this equals formatting the date in the same way of right now, so now with open and close parentheses, comma, two capital L's, if that's the case, so it is today, then say task or tasks completed today. What I can do is put maybe an emoji before this inside of the quotations, like a trophy. So if that's the case, that we had tasks completed today, we'll see this message. Otherwise, show an empty space. Or we can say no tasks completed today. Done. And in this case, we do have a task completed. So I'm just going to hide this property, always hide. And then I'm going to go back to the home page. And what I'm going to do in task type is go to the database menu, go to properties, and show that today formula. So now we're seeing something like this. Let's create that other formula to see all of the tasks in progress, or if all of them have been completed for each type. Back to content. What I can do is actually either duplicate today or create a new formula. I'm going to duplicate and rename to in progress, or I could say status. So for this one, if there are tasks connected to content that are in progress, in this case there is 1 out of 3, I want to show in progress 1 out of 3 tasks. If it is completed, so all tasks in content say 100%, then I want to show this green emoji, all tasks completed. So let's just delete everything within this if function and replace inside, let's say if completed, which is this roll up here, a number, equals 1 or 100%, then I want to say green circle, all tasks completed. Otherwise, let's find in progress. So just show the in progress property. And I did that by just clicking on in progress. So otherwise, property in progress. If I press done, it looks something like this. So in this case, completed is not 100%, so it's grabbing in progress, which is just 1 out of 3. But I want to say in progress colon the amount in progress. So I'm going to click back through, and right before prop in progress, I'm going to say quotes plus, so in progress colon space. And this is the final formula. Done. It will look like this. And for this property as well, I'm going to always hide. Hide all of these properties. And if I go back to the home page, again, I can go to the database menu. go to Properties and Show Status. And there we have it. So I'm just going to delete Table and leave all of those views that we created. And that's about it. That is how we can use the status property in Notion and a little bit about that new relation update. So let's just go right into the outro. I hope you guys found that useful, and I wonder if you are using the status property and if it is more helpful to you than the regular select or multi-select properties. And like I said, all links relevant down in the description below, and I'll see you guys the rest of the week on Twitter next time with a new video. I'll see you then.